Well, hello, hello. It is Sarah Jane from Access Your True Nature with your double dose of animal medicine to really give you the courage to get deeply rooted into your truth. We have the full moon on Wednesday, I believe, and it is the truth moon. So I wanted to share with you how you can start to decode and maybe understand some of the triggers that may be coming up for you when with your identity, and perhaps where you're feeling a little bit insecure in the way that life is showing up for you. Um, and just to remember always to just tread really gently on yourself, because these times are really unraveling a lot of this perceived chaos that can feel very ungrounded for the human emotions. And welcome, welcome. If you're here with me, just give me a heart or a thumbs up if you can hear me. I had to put my earphones in today because my computer microphone doesn't seem to be working. So just give me a yes if you can hear me, because I really want you to receive this medicine that I got given last night, around how to really ground into your truth at a time when it's very difficult for many of us to actually trust in the information that we're getting given. I think there is a much deeper layer, and I think we've all been feeling it for a while, that's underneath the surface. But that our human mind, we're born intuitively knowing when we're incarnated into this earth plane, but our human mind is putting a lot of irrational restrictions and faulty belief systems in trying to translate into a primitive language a lot of the structures that are not really known in the dimensional world. And there is this great untangling of a lot of old limiting beliefs and concepts that can feel overwhelming at times, and another reason why we really need to be brave in navigating through this sort of uncharted territory that we're all finding ourselves in, and put more trust in our hearts knowing, because the more that you ground, the more that you let go of human expectation, which is difficult because we all do go into a lot of projections and expectations and separate out. But the more that you practice really standing in your truth, the more things that can start to change when you really start looking at each process, whether you're in a cycle of pain or in a cycle of joy right now, or either, or in the duality of that you can expand back to really trusting that you've got everything that you know. And I wanted to share my download last night when I kind of got woken up, and I could feel the sort of primal scream coming up in this lucid dreaming, where I was literally fighting in the jaws of a crocodile for my life. And being able to sort of remember that this morning was a wonderful reminder to look at where I was doubting in my own psychic capacities to trust in this ancient wisdom of what I'm creating, and to support people like you who are feeling like they're never going to heal from trauma, or they're never going to sort of get out of this cycle that feels like they're going down the rabbit hole, or literally being swallowed whole by crocodile. To look at where are you not digesting your life, or where are you moving too quickly through life, and when is the right time for you to stay in that deep down and wait before you respond. And I talked a lot about that last week in the power of the pause. But just for today, alligator or crocodile medicine, it's really, really ancient. They haven't really evolved much in the millions of years that they've been around, and they're quite repugnant and repulsive for many of us. I know that every time I sort of go out on the Zambezi River and see the size of some of these old crocodiles, it brings up a lot of fear. But when you look at the qualities of an alligator or a crocodile, they really are the keepers of maternal protection. If you've ever seen a crocodile that can hear its babies from miles away, they really remind us to look at where we need to mother ourselves, right? And how do we sort of get deeply rooted back into healing the separation sickness, where we've become so disconnected from Mother Earth, and where we need to look at stronger boundaries, where we need protection from manipulation, and really understanding the deceit and the revenge through patience and initiation and understanding the weather patterns. It's ancient knowledge, and if we're going to survive, then bring in crocodile medicine to show you how to stay in your truth and not just survive, but create secure attachment, in trusting that you know how to move forward. I think that crocodiles are unstoppable. They're untamable creatures, and really a force of all that is. The force and fury of how to use those primal energies, and be willing to use the killing energy to protect your own sovereignty, but also the things that matter and you care about, because they are the greatest symbol of creation and destruction, as the keepers and protectors of all that ancient wisdom and knowledge. And in many a myth and legend, crocodiles and alligators are also known as the keepers of the ancient wisdom. So why not use that medicine from crocodile to support you in navigating your way forward, by looking for opportunities to really get in touch with your own primal energies, your own fierceness. There's always an opportunity for new knowledge and wisdom, but we have to be willing to receive it. And as if that wasn't enough, that download last night, I was working with a client this afternoon, and about 20 bees flew in the one window into the space that I was working with, and sort of hovered around her body, and then flew out when she got the download. Through the questioning of what we were working with, where she was really hungry for more sweetness in her life, where she just felt like she'd lost her joy, and bee medicine came in just to confirm that she is supported, that she doesn't have to try and figure everything out on her own, and also that she was in pre-diabetes. She came in wanting to get clarity on some aspects of her life, and left knowing that her need for sweetness was showing up as almost pre-diabetic. So there's so much medicine if we're just open to receiving it, and it's really difficult to attain that just through mindfulness and energy work alone. So if we can stay open to receiving the medicine of the natural world, then does it make sense that you can spend less time in the struggle of trying to figure everything out on your own, and receive the support and ask for support, because it's always available to us through spirit, through animal totems, or nature, and through our everyday helpers that are walking around in physical bodies, whether that's human or animal. So the call really is this week to be more fierce and not give up dreaming into sovereignty to ourselves, and also to Mother Earth, to respect the natural world by being courageous enough to stay in your truth. And if you don't know what your truth is, to discover what your truth is, so that you can let go of sort of lower vibrational frequencies and emotions that are hiding underneath the surface, all those blind spots. And look at what crocodile has to share in that. And also, if you think about a honeybee and the way that they work in community, it's all about duality and balance. the rigid and the vulnerable, the push and the pull, the ebb and the flow, and also what's obvious and what's still hidden underneath the surface. So use this beautiful web of life to get curious about where you are out of balance in your creative energies, because crocodile medicine is really about that activation of the sexual chakra. It's about creation, co-creation. It's about community, and look at what truth needs to be acknowledged so that you can create more harmony and balance in your own emotional state. It's so important, I think, and something that I talk about all the time, where when you look at all these places that are operating in the back of your brain and you take them for granted, it's like that perceptual lens that you see out of one of the people that I was talking about in session today was saying, you know what, I don't know if I can trust people. I don't know if it's safe. And that, just that simple occlusion, like a filter on her lens of not being able to trust her true nature. Give me a thumbs up if this makes sense, because does it make sense that if you're clear that there is no separation, then it is safe to be engaged with people. You can trust in life, you can trust in people. But if there is a fear there, and there is evolutionary, because we are programmed that way to by evolution or that reptilian brain to prepare for danger, it's also true that your heart, your soul longs for freedom. And this is why I love attachment theory so much, because it really is the language of the heart. Although we don't talk about it that way, we think about it as our wiring for relationship, but there is something in all of us, and maybe you disagree, but please post and let me know your insights on this, that we're hungry for change, and we're wired for connection. We're wired for contact. So why do we move into separation or isolation when we're afraid? Why do we do that? And yet we want to be loved and be loved, and we push it away. It's a interesting question, because even though we're evolutionary designed for safety, there's a very hard level there where we create our own separation in all of that. And we don't just want sovereignty and belonging to ourselves, but we also want to belong to a collective of people. And we're early imprinting, this is where the adverse childhood experience, pre-3-year-old, we're already creating some of these sort of faulty belief systems and wiring, because we're being programmed. And so we get imprinted by our caregivers, if they're smothering us, or whether they're inconsistent and they're avoidant or ambivalent and they're not there to mother us and grow us up. And remember, this is all very implicit. This is a nonverbal language. So our task as we grow up is to learn, how do we translate that and transfer that into our daily experience, and see how our imprints are showing up in our everyday life, right? All ways that we're triggered. But through training and practice, I want you to know that you absolutely can trust and see, oh, there's that past piece that's showing up, that fear that I have in this present moment. And how did I first get imprinted? How did I first learn this faulty belief? Through memories and association and beliefs that bring that forward into our adult life. And then what we learn is that we are simulating that in our experiences in relationship with everybody and everything, and we think it's real. And this is the part where neuroscience is really showing in the research that it's operating in the background. It's invisible. That's why they're called blind spots, and yet we still think it's real. That the past is actually repeating itself in the present, because perhaps you were shamed repeatedly or put down all the time, and your body mind is, the imprint is so wired for that to happen, right, as a predictive mechanism. And I think the key to remember is that you're not stuck You're not trapped. None of us are trapped. We can decode that. We can rewire our nervous system to work for us. And in the breaking apart of that implicit negativity bias, we can learn to train ourselves to move from a more negative orientation toward life to this positivity bias. And that's where the training days really begin. So don't give up. And if you're not on my mailing list, please come and join me over there. I was a little late sending out my weekly newsletter because I was busy out in the field over the weekend. And I've also been creating a lot of new materials and resources. But I talked about the difference between the negativity bias and gave you 7 simple ways today that you can turn that around into a positivity bias so that you can start to see the bright side of life and look at what you actively appreciate is always going to appreciate. And that's really my mission in this lifetime, to expect life to be good, to trust that the universe has your back, and start applying some of these simple steps to nurture yourself and grow up your child parts. And I want you to have the opportunity to return to trust, because without trust and trusting in trust, you're going to keep falling back into these old belief systems where you're always expecting the other shoe to drop, and it doesn't have to be that way. So please join me over there. I'm going to be bringing something very special into the world. I'm using that medicine from Crocodile to trust in my intuitive knowing, in my psychic capacities, in my life, and what I've experienced through my own PhD of life experiences that have been like a petri dish for all the anxiety and depression and trauma out there, so that I can help you to really set yourself free and really acknowledge that you've got this and you don't have to do it alone. So join me there, and let me know what Crocodile or Honeybee has to say to you in your next moment of stillness, of waiting for the divine timing of things, and never ever doubting your truth, right? There's the truth and there is your truth. And it's important that we use this time over the next week to really fiercely protect the things that matter to you, including time freedom and money freedom, and where you're putting your resources, and how you're showing up in the world. So I hope that is helpful for you to start your week off really strong, really deeply rooted in your truth, and to prepare for a great week of co-creation and collaboration in the coming days. So please like this, share it, come and join me over at Access Your True Nature, and let's be the change that we've been waiting for right now. There is no time to waste, and I'll meet you there. All right, have a good rest of your day wherever you are. Bye.